Today I'm looking at Toroline O-Toro Tour. It's a poly that promises stability, durability, control, high spin and comfort, and is marketed as being comparable to Luxolon 4G and RPM Blast. For me, I found it had good power, great spin, but I found when the ball was coming at high pace and I was being moved around, really didn't deliver any way, shape or form in terms of stability. I also have questions about the durability. So reading on Toroline's website, the description of this suggests that it has a stiffer feel and it's really intended for control and durability, and it's supposed to give high spin and good comfort. So for me, the initial impression when I strung it, so it is a hexagonal string, and my initial thoughts when I strung it and kind of just felt the string bed was it reminded me a bit of Headlinks Tour Champagne. I expected this to be quite a stiff string, and as such, I expected to get quite a lot of control off of this. I strung it at 52 pounds. To be honest, a lot of the reading I did and a lot of the calculations suggest that I should actually string this higher. I know a lot of people have the opinion that you should string lower to open up the string bed. I find that I can generate an awful lot of power, and for me, I need to string higher to get control, but I respect for others that they find that they can actually string strings lower, and that does potentially change the characteristic of the string. When I initially hit with this, albeit that was more with my daughter, and we were using Dunlop Fort, so it's a relatively comfortable hit. I did find this to be pretty comfortable. It had some nice feel and pocketing, and I was very optimistic for how this would play, particularly when I went into the squad that I hit in, which is with some of the kids that really smash the ball pretty hard and are pretty good players. I did notice as well that when I was cracking some first serves, this really gave some brilliant power, and I was, quite happy in terms of just how much I could smash the ball on a flat first serve. That said, the measure for me is always when I take this into the hitting squad that I go into twice a week, which is made up of a group of sort of mainly teens and early 20s who are hitting a really good ball. They're playing kind of grade 4, 3, and we have some that are playing grade 2, 1 and some junior ITF. So they're all very good players, and you do get moved around and the ball hit pretty hard. Plus we use Technifiber Champions, which is a fast ball. When I hit in that squad, to be honest, this string broke down badly. So I wouldn't call this a powerful string. Someone asked in a comment, would I compare this to Silinko Mark 10 or let's say Restring 0? The answer is no. This does feel stiffer. It's just that the ball launches. It was very hard to control that. For me, again, that's where I feel I would need to string this an awful lot higher, and I don't criticize the string for that. I just think for me personally, I would need to string this higher. I just can't see how I could string this at 52 or lower and get control when the ball's being pounded at me. That said, spin, being a hexagonal string, really great spin. I think that's a fantastic attribute of this. It was comfortable, even though this is supposed to be a stiffer poly. Didn't really feel this was harsh at all. But definitely the stability, and in fact, that wasn't just for myself. I passed it around a few others in the hitting group I'm in, and honestly, we just kind of looked at it and went, there's simply no way you could play with this string at that tension. Bear in mind, I would say, we're all hitting a lot flatter. There's nobody there doing sort of extreme aggressive topspin. That said, on serves, particularly the flat serve, really, really nice. The kick serve, not so much, to be perfectly honest. I didn't particularly enjoy hitting second serves with this. In terms of durability, I'll be honest and say I haven't put in an amazing amount of hours with this, just because once it kind of didn't hold up, I just haven't continued. I don't see the point. It's not really notching at all. That said, I've only probably put in about 3 to 4 hours maximum. What I have noticed is the tension, it is getting really spongy. It is dropping off, absolutely. So I don't know whether that's because I've strung it higher and maybe it is designed to be strung in the mid-40s and it stabilizes, or maybe you have to string and let it drop. Maybe you have to pre-stretch it. I'm not sure, but what I can tell you is this is losing tension or has lost. There's been a drop-off, and again, I can't comment if that's going to stabilize, but that is absolutely what I've found. That said, if they're comparing this to Luxolon 4G, I also found that dropped in tension and I noted that I felt like I would have to string higher. Interestingly, 4G is pre-stretched at the factory, so maybe that's something you have to do with this, is consider a pre-stretch. So for me, who is this for? Because honestly, I'm not going to bash it as a string. I think it has great qualities. It just doesn't suit my game. I think this will suit an aggressive topspin player, someone who doesn't mind playing probably in the 45 to 50 range in terms of tension, who can put a mass amount of spin, but also does appreciate the fact that the ball does launch off the strings a bit, even though it's not crazy, let's say like restring 0. I also have had some comments where I believe this would work well in a hybrid, probably putting a round poly in the crosses. I think that's what people do. But I do think it needs that sort of massive upward swing to give you the spin. Otherwise, I think the trajectory that comes off as soon as you start hitting flatter is just too inconsistent to kind of consider ripping through the ball without a massive amount of spin, which is how I play. So in terms of that, who is it not ideal for? The flat, hard hitter that craves stability. Players who are quite sensitive to tension drops. Again, I can't comment how far this goes or whether it's going to stabilize. And honestly, I feel like if I had to say, would I put this in the same bucket as 4G? The answer is no. Why? Because I would try 4G again and I'd probably bump that up a few pounds and I think I'd be happy with it. With this, I honestly don't think I would try this again, simply because it's not even close to being my cup of tea. I'm sure it is someone else's though. The only other comment is one of the reasons I picked this, and I must admit I have trouble kind of traversing the Toroline range because of all the names. I just can't really keep track of them. They do have a nice list on their website though that shows you the soft to stiffer strings. This was supposed to be one of the stiffer ones. So I'm going to try, I think it's Caviar and O-Toro Tour, which I picked off from their stiffer string list. But it does concern me a bit. If this is one of the stiffer ones, then I think I'm gonna have to string those others much higher to give me any sort of control with my game. That said, I think these are hugely popular strings and Toroline is a great brand, so I can't not recommend it, but for someone like me, yeah, it really didn't work. So as ever, love to get your thoughts. I've already put a couple of videos up and had lots and lots of comments about this. I respect that people get great value and great performance out of the string, so love to know what's your setup, how have you strung it, what's your playing style, and who do you think this best suits. I think it's fantastic to share that information. Next up for me, actually I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent. I'm going to try Headlinks Tour in the black. So I've tried champagne and like it. Black is supposed to be stiffer still. I'm going to see if that lets me rip a bit more and how much that compares to Solinco Confidential. Watch this space.